Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going deep on the art of war by Sun Tzu.
Oh, a classic.
We've got excerpts from the text itself.
The text itself, okay.
Yeah, and I got to say, this ancient book,
Ancient.
it's surprisingly relevant,
Yes.
even in today's world.
I can see that.
Yeah.
It really is, while it focuses on war, the strategies and insights from Sun Tzu, they can apply to so many things.
Oh, yeah.
Like business negotiations, personal goals.
Absolutely.
Even navigating
I was going to say.
tricky office politics.
Yes, exactly. It's all about, gaining an advantage no matter the battlefield, right? One of the things that really struck me was Sun Tzu's emphasis on knowing your personnel.
Oh, interesting.
It's about more than just remembering names.
Right.
It's about understanding your team's strengths and weaknesses
Okay.
and knowing how to use them strategically.
He uses that analogy of stones against eggs.
Oh,
To win, you need to know which stone to use against which egg.
I like that.
Meaning you have to understand your strengths and your opponent's vulnerabilities.
Okay, so it's like building a killer startup team.
Yes.
You wouldn't hire 5 amazing developers and no one to handle marketing or sales.
No.
Right. You need the right people in the right roles
To be truly effective.
to be truly effective.
And of course, knowing your opponent.
Is just as crucial.
Absolutely.
Right.
Sun Tzu stresses the importance of gathering intelligence and using it strategically.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking of strategy,
Okay.
another key theme is the importance of discipline and leadership.
Okay.
He's very clear about the need for clear commands and unwavering obedience to those commands.
Right, like that story about the general who beheaded 2 of the king's concubines
Oh, wow.
for disobeying orders during a training exercise.
That's a pretty extreme example.
Yeah, it's a pretty extreme example.
But it definitely highlights his point.
It does. It does make you think about the fine line between maintaining order and resorting to drastic measures. Right.
That being said, the underlying principle is about creating a culture of accountability where everyone understands the rules
Yes.
and the potential consequences of breaking them.
It makes me wonder if there are less, shall we say, head-chopping ways to achieve that level of discipline
Right.
in a modern setting.
That's an interesting point.
Maybe clear communication and fostering a sense of ownership could be just as effective.
Maybe we've evolved in how we approach discipline.
Right.
Sun Tzu also acknowledges the importance of caring for your troops and keeping them motivated,
Oh, okay.
recognizing that a well-looked-after army is a strong army.
So it's a balance.
Yeah.
Right. Discipline is key, but so is ensuring the well-being of your team.
Absolutely.
Now, in another layer we need to unpack is how this text tackles the justification for warfare itself.
Okay.
Right.
Right, and there are some interesting contrasts here.
Yeah.
Xiao, who wrote the preface,
Okay.
presents this historical and philosophical justification for warfare. He draws from Confucian texts, arguing that military strength is essential for maintaining order,
Okay.
and that war can be a tool for achieving peace and justice. But then used appropriately, of course.
But then we come to a section that seems to contradict that.
Really?
Yeah. Criticizing scholars who blindly preach peace and virtue
Interesting.
without acknowledging the need for strength and preparedness.
Almost like they're living in a fantasy world.
It's like they're living in a fantasy world.
Precisely.
Right.
This section argues that ignoring the realities of conflict and the need for military strength
Okay.
can actually make a nation more vulnerable.
Oh, wow.
It challenges the idea that virtue alone is enough to guarantee safety.
So it's a really thought-provoking dilemma.
It is.
It makes you consider the complexities of war and the tough choices leaders face.
Absolutely.
Is there a way to truly achieve peace without being prepared for conflict?
That's the question.
It's a question we're still grappling with today, centuries later.
And one that Sun Tzu doesn't give us an easy answer to.
No, he doesn't.
It's something to ponder as we delve deeper into his insights.
Okay.
Another takeaway that stood out to me is Sun Tzu's focus on swiftness and efficiency in warfare.
Okay.
He makes it clear that prolonged wars
Yeah.
are detrimental for everyone involved.
He states that no country has ever benefited from a long war.
Right.
A skilled general, according to Sun Tzu, should aim for decisive victories and avoid getting bogged down in lengthy campaigns.
He even gives that concrete example.
Okay.
A skilled general doesn't raise troops a second time and only loads supply wagons twice.
Okay. Wow.
It highlights his emphasis on meticulous planning and efficient execution.
He also advocated for foraging on the enemy
Oh, interesting.
to ensure adequate food supplies.
Okay.
A strategy that, while potentially controversial,
Yeah.
demonstrates his focus on minimizing the burden of war on his own people. It's fascinating how he ties his practical advice back to the bigger picture
Yes.
of resource management
Right.
and the long-term economic impact of war.
He understood that protracted warfare not only exhausts troops, but also drains a nation's resources and ultimately places a huge burden on the population.
Yeah.
Speaking of strategic thinking, we can't forget about Sun Tzu's love for deception.
Oh, right.
He doesn't just mention it, he practically makes it an art form.
He's definitely not a fan of playing fair, is he?
Not at all.
All warfare is based on deception.
That's one of his most famous quotes.
That's right. That's one of his most famous quotes.
It's not about fighting honorably. It's about outsmarting your opponent.
Using any means necessary.
Absolutely.
Right.
He advocates for disguising your strengths as weaknesses, using bait to lure the enemy, and creating illusions to mislead them.
Okay.
He even suggests using the conquered foe to bolster your own strength.
Wow.
It's about turning the tables and using your opponent's resources against them.
Now, that's what I call strategic brilliance. It's a tactic that has applications far beyond the battlefield.
Oh, I agree.
Think about negotiating a business deal or even handling a difficult coworker.
Right.
Right.
And this strategic mindset goes beyond just battlefield tactics.
Okay.
Sun Tzu even adapted the traditional 5 cardinal virtues for military application,
Wow.
replacing uprightness of mind and self-respect with courage and strictness.
So he took these established moral principles and modified them to fit the specific demands of warfare.
Exactly. He recognized that different contexts required different virtues.
Okay.
Which brings us to his 7 considerations for victory.
Okay.
This framework helps assess your chances of success,
Okay.
taking into account everything from the morale of your troops to the terrain of the battlefield.
It's like a comprehensive risk assessment checklist for any kind of war you might be facing.
Precisely.
He seems to have thought of everything.
He really does cover a lot of ground.
Right.
And speaking of ground,
Okay.
Sun Tzu also outlines the 9 battlegrounds.
Okay.
He identified 9 types of terrain and developed strategies for each. Wow.
From dispersive ground, where your troops are close to home and might be tempted to flee,
Right.
to the perilous, desperate ground where there's no escape and you're forced to fight with everything you've got.
I found this part fascinating because it shows how Sun Tzu considers the battlefield itself as a factor that can be used to your advantage or disadvantage.
It's about understanding how the environment can shape the course of a conflict.
Right.
And how a clever strategist can use that to their advantage.
And of course, we can't talk about Sun Tzu without talking about spies.
Oh, absolutely.
He dedicates a whole chapter to the use of spies.
Right.
Let's be honest, this stuff is still relevant even in today's world of digital espionage.
Absolutely.
Right.
He breaks down the different types of spies.
Yeah.
Local spies, who are from the area you're fighting in.
Okay.
Inward spies, who are enemy officials you've managed to turn to your side.
Okay.
And even doomed spies, who are sent to spread false information.
It's like a crash course in Spycraft 101.
And he doesn't just talk about using them. He outlines specific strategies for recruiting, managing, and utilizing them effectively.
And there's this fascinating concept of divine manipulation of the threads, which is about skillfully using your spies to gather intel, manipulate perceptions, and ultimately control your opponent's actions.
It's like weaving a web of deception and intrigue.
It is.
And speaking of historical examples,
Okay.
he tells the story of Ai-Chi,
Ai-Chi.
a spy for the Yin dynasty,
Right.
to highlight how impactful espionage can be on the outcome of wars.
It's really fascinating how Sun Tzu connects these historical narratives with strategic principles and practical advice.
It creates a comprehensive understanding of his philosophy on warfare.
Absolutely.
It's one of the things that makes the art of war so enduring. So much of what he wrote centuries ago is still applicable today, even if our battlefields have changed.
Exactly.
Now, one of the things that struck me was Sun Tzu's emphasis on energy and decisiveness in battle. He compares it to bending a crossbow and releasing the trigger.
Right.
It's about building potential energy and then striking at the right moment.
And that ties back to his idea of turning misfortune into gain, doesn't it?
It does.
Even when facing setbacks, a skilled strategist can find a way to shift the momentum and use the situation to their advantage.
It's like that saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade.
Right.
But in this case, it's more like, when war gives you lemons, launch a surprise attack.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's that ability to adapt and react that really sets a brilliant strategist apart.
Yeah.
Sun Tzu also talks about the 6 calamities,
Okay.
which are essentially leadership failures
Yeah.
that can spell disaster for an army.
Yeah, these calamities are a cautionary tale for any leader, military or otherwise.
Right.
He lists things like flight insubordination collapse, ruin, disorganization, and rout.
Right.
Basically, a roadmap of what not to do if you want to succeed.
And he gives specific examples for each,
Okay.
highlighting the real-world consequences of these leadership lapses.
Okay.
Like, he describes ruin as what happens when high-ranking officers are so caught up in their own anger and insubordination that they launch attacks without the commander-in-chief even knowing what's going on.
So it's a complete breakdown of communication and chain of command, leading to chaos and potentially devastating losses.
Exactly. And it emphasizes how crucial the general's role is in establishing a disciplined and unified fighting force.
Yeah.
He actually says that a general should be able to command a whole army as though he were dealing with a single person.
Wow, that's some serious leadership.
That's the goal.
That's a powerful image. The general as the brain and the army as the body, working together seamlessly. Speaking of working together, Sun Tzu also dives into the different branches of military knowledge. Highlighting the importance of understanding the terrain, weather, and enemy movement.
It's all connected.
Right.
He outlines the 4 useful branches of military knowledge, which include understanding mountains, rivers, marshes, and flat country.
It's about knowing your environment and using it to your advantage.
Exactly.
It's like he's saying, nature can be your greatest ally or your worst enemy.
Right.
Choose wisely.
Choose wisely.
And this awareness of the environment extends to his discussion of the seasons.
Yes.
And their impact on military operations.
He believes there are certain times of the year that are more advantageous for warfare.
Okay.
Advising generals to take these factors into account when planning campaigns.
So don't launch a winter offensive if you're not prepared for the challenges that come with it.
Exactly.
Right. It's all about adapting to the circumstances.
Absolutely.
He also stresses the importance of observing the enemy, both natural and man-made signs, to anticipate their movements and counter their strategies.
Right.
And he gets really specific here.
Yeah.
Providing a whole list of things to look out for.
Okay.
Ranging from the way birds take flight.
Interesting.
To the dust clouds kicked up by marching armies.
It's like detective work.
It's like he's saying, pay attention to the little things, they can tell you a lot.
Right.
It's almost like detective work, piecing together clues to figure out what the enemy is up to. And then there's the psychological side of warfare.
Yes.
Sun Tzu was way ahead of his time in recognizing the importance of understanding and manipulating emotions, both in your own troops and in the enemy.
Oh, absolutely.
He talks about inspiring your own soldiers with a sense of purpose and a will to fight.
Okay.
While simultaneously sowing fear and confusion among the enemy ranks.
Right.
He even suggests feigning weakness to lure the enemy into a trap.
Classic psychological warfare.
It's like he's saying mind games can be just as powerful as any weapon.
Absolutely.
Right.
And remember his love for deception.
Yes.
It plays a big role here, too.
Okay.
He suggests using tricks like pretending to retreat,
to
draw the enemy out, or leaking false information to mislead them.
It's all about keeping the enemy off balance.
Right.
Making them question what they see and hear. And, of course, maintaining secrecy is paramount.
Oh, absolutely.
He argues that a general should keep his true intentions hidden, even from his own officers.
Interesting.
Using misleading reports and appearances to create confusion.
It's like playing poker.
Yeah.
Don't show your hand until you're ready to win the pot.
Right. And to bring it all back to one of our earlier points, this emphasis on secrecy is where spies come in.
Right.
They're the ones gathering that vital intel, spreading disinformation, and disrupting the enemy's plans from the inside.
Sun Tzu saw spies as indispensable assets, and his insights into their recruitment, management, and utilization are surprisingly relevant even in today's world of digital espionage.
Okay.
He even categorized different types of spies, outlining their roles and the best ways to leverage their unique skills.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit further.
Sure.
He talks about local spies, who are basically people from the area you're operating in.
Right.
They know the lay of the land, they understand local customs, and they can blend in easily.
Very valuable.
Incredibly valuable.
Then you have inward spies.
Okay.
Who are actually enemy officials that you've managed to turn to your side.
Okay.
These are your high-value assets.
Talk about high stakes.
They have access to sensitive information.
Right.
They understand the inner workings of the enemy's operation.
Yeah.
And they can provide a level of insight that no one else can.
It seems incredibly risky, but potentially game-changing if you can pull it off.
Absolutely.
Right.
And then there's the converted spy,
Okay.
which is someone who starts out working for the enemy but then defects to your side.
Okay.
They already have a deep understanding of the enemy's tactics and weaknesses, making them a valuable asset if you can trust them, of course.
Right. Trust is a big factor here.
Absolutely.
And to ensure that trust, Sun Tzu emphasizes treating your spies well.
Yeah.
Rewarding them generously and protecting their safety.
He recognized that loyalty is earned, not demanded.
Right.
And that spies, especially those working undercover, are putting themselves at great risk.
It's like he's saying, if you want your spies to be effective, you need to invest in them.
Exactly. And this investment isn't just about money.
Okay.
It's about respect, trust, and a recognition of the crucial role they play in achieving victory.
He even uses historical examples like the rise of the Yin dynasty to demonstrate how skillful espionage can literally change the course of history.
The Yin dynasty's success was attributed in part to their effective use of spies, particularly Aichi, a legendary figure who infiltrated the previous dynasty and helped pave the way for the Yin to take power.
Wow.
It's a reminder that intelligence gathering has been a key element of warfare for centuries.
It's fascinating how Sun Tzu seamlessly weaves together these historical narratives with practical advice and strategic principles.
It creates a much richer understanding of his philosophy and shows how these concepts have been applied in real-world situations.
This deep dive has been a wild ride through ancient military strategy.
It has.
But it's also been so much more than that.
I agree.
We're uncovering these timeless principles of leadership strategy and human psychology that are just as relevant today as they were centuries ago.
It's a testament to the enduring power of Sun Tzu's insights and how they can be applied to so many aspects of modern life, from business and politics to personal relationships and even self-improvement.
Absolutely. Whether you're leading a team, negotiating a deal, or even just trying to achieve a personal goal, there's something in the art of war that can help you gain an advantage and navigate complex situations more effectively.
And this brings us back to one of the most powerful themes of the art of war, the importance of adaptability and flexibility.
He's constantly reminding us that there are no hard and fast rules in warfare or in life for that matter.
That's right.
You need to be able to adjust your plans, adapt to the terrain, and respond to your opponent's moves.
Sun Tzu actually says that the general who can modify his tactics based on his opponent and still achieve victory can be called a heaven-born captain.
Okay.
It's high praise, but it highlights how crucial adaptability is.
Yeah. In any strategic endeavor.
So it's not just about having a brilliant plan, it's about having the mental agility to adjust that plan when things inevitably go sideways.
Absolutely.
And speaking of different approaches, Sun Tzu also emphasizes the importance of using both direct and indirect tactics.
Right. He compares it to moving in a circle.
Okay.
Where the direct and indirect methods of attack constantly feed into each other.
Okay.
Creating an endless cycle of maneuvers.
So it's about keeping your opponent guessing, never letting them get comfortable or predict your next move.
Be unpredictable.
Be unpredictable, right?
He even compares a well-coordinated attack to a rushing torrent that can sweep away anything in its path.
Wow.
Even boulders.
Okay.
It speaks to the power of momentum and the need to strike with overwhelming force when the opportunity arises.
He also stresses the importance of decisive action.
Yes.
Comparing it to a falcon's perfectly timed swoop to catch its prey.
It's about recognizing the right moment to strike and having the courage to act decisively.
Right.
Hesitation can be fatal.
Yeah. And this focus on energy and decisive action ties back to his emphasis on morale and discipline. A well-led army with a strong sense of purpose and a willingness to fight, according to Sun Tzu, can overcome even the most daunting challenges. But on the flip side, he warns about those 6 calamities that can befall an army due to leadership failures.
We've talked about them already, but they're worth mentioning again.
Right.
These calamities are like a cautionary tale about the consequences of poor leadership.
He gives those vivid examples. Ruin, which occurs when high-ranking officers are so insubordinate that they launch their own attacks before the commander-in-chief can even assess the situation.
It's a recipe for disaster, isn't it?
It is.
Personal agendas and a lack of discipline can completely undermine the chain of command. It makes me think about how important it is, even in a corporate setting,
Right.
to have a clear understanding of roles and responsibilities and to foster a culture of respect and collaboration.
It's about having a shared vision and working together towards a common goal.
Right.
Which brings us to another interesting point.
Okay.
Sun Tzu dedicates a whole chapter to the use of fire in warfare.
He certainly doesn't shy away from the more destructive aspects of war, does he?
He acknowledges the power of fire as a weapon,
Right.
but he's also cautious about its use.
Okay.
He emphasizes the importance of understanding how the elements, especially wind, can influence the spread of fire.
So he wouldn't want a fire attack to backfire, so to speak.
Exactly.
Okay, I see what you did there.
Right.
So it's not just about setting things ablaze.
No.
It's about understanding the science behind it and using it strategically.
Absolutely.
Right.
He also highlights the psychological impact of fire,
Oh.
how it can be used to create fear and confusion among the enemy,
Yeah.
weakening their resolve.
Okay.
And he outlines 5 different ways to use fire in battle.
5 different ways. Wow.
Ranging from reacting to an enemy's fire attack to launching a preemptive strike at the most opportune moment.
It's like a combination of ancient firefighting techniques and advanced military strategy.
It is.
And it shows just how innovative Sun Tzu was in his thinking.
He really was.
He really did consider every possible angle.
He was a master strategist, that's for sure.
That's for sure.
And his ingenuity isn't limited to fire tactics.
Okay.
Throughout The Art of War, he encourages us to think outside the box and find creative ways to outmaneuver our opponents.
Whether it's using deception and psychological manipulation or exploiting the terrain and elements,
Right.
Sun Tzu is all about using every tool at your disposal to gain an advantage. He really pushes you to be resourceful and think strategically.
One of his most striking insights is this idea of turning misfortune into gain.
Right?
He argues that a skilled general can actually use setbacks and challenges to their advantage, turning a seemingly negative situation into an opportunity for victory.
It's that whole make lemonade out of lemons thing, but on a much grander scale. And it reminds me of something we touched on earlier.
Yeah.
That mental preparedness is just as important as any physical weapon.
Absolutely. Sun Tzu believed that victory wasn't just about having a bigger army or better weapons.
Okay.
It was about mental fortitude, the ability to withstand pressure, and the strategic thinking to outsmart your opponent. He was a strong advocate for discipline focus and a clear understanding of your goals.
This deep dive has been an incredible journey.
It has.
We've uncovered so many fascinating insights from the art of war, and it's been amazing to see how these ancient principles of strategy and leadership are still relevant in our modern world.
It's a testament to the enduring power of Sun Tzu's wisdom
Right.
and the universality of the human experience, whether you're facing a challenge in business, navigating a difficult relationship, or even just trying to achieve a personal goal. There's something in the art of war that can provide guidance and inspiration.
So as we wrap up, we want to leave you with a question to ponder.
Okay.
Sun Tzu talks about turning misfortune into gain.
Right.
What's a current challenge you face where this idea might apply? Could seeing it differently actually lead to an advantage?
We encourage you to explore the full text of The Art of War and see how you can apply Sun Tzu's timeless wisdom to your own life.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks, everyone.